You know, it's good to see Donnie Yen in another action movie, and it looks like he's lost a lot of weight since Enter the Fast Dragon. So good on him. Hello, everyone. This is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and today I'm going to talk to you about Raging Fire, a new action film coming to theaters on August 13, 2021 from Wellgo USA. It's a Chinese action movie starring the legend Donnie Yen, along with Nicholas C. Quinlan and a whole bunch of other great action stars. It is an ensemble cast, and actually a very good action movie as well. It's just a solid movie. It's got a lot of really great style. It's got a lot of good action. I'm going to talk a little bit about the film itself. I'm going to talk about three things I liked about it, three things I didn't like about it, and then I'm going to go into the ending. So, as you can imagine, this will have spoilers. So, if you don't want to know anything about the film, check out the review on watcherpass.com. It's much more vague. It doesn't have spoilers, so you can just kind of get a sense of the movie. But if you really want to know what happens, you want to know some of the things that occur in the movie, some of the action sequences, we can talk further, but you've been warned. So, in Raging Fire, you have essentially kind of a good cop, bad cop aesthetic. You've got Donnie Yen as this over the top good cop who's incorruptible, awesome action star, breaks big cases. It's kind of it is kind of what you expect from Donnie Yen. I mean, he's a legend. He's also cultivated this really great persona as well. So it fits perfectly for Donnie Yen. Then you have Nicholas C as I think his character's name was Go or Engo. I'm not 100% sure what his character's name was, but he plays kind of a cop. He was a rising star cop that then kind of went a little too far to get some justice and got sent to jail. So he's kind of like a fallen angel, like former good cop kind of character. And he, along with four other of his, cop friends, people in his squad, all kind of participate in this. So they all got sent to jail. And then when they get out, they want revenge, as you would expect. They want revenge, they want money, they want to kind of stick it to the police and also set themselves up for life. So they arrange this bank robbery hit kind of attack that sets into motion a series of events that pulls Donnie Yen and a whole bunch of their other compatriot, cop co-workers, compatriots into this little web of action and of intrigue. And it's just very, very well done. So the first thing I loved about this film is Donnie Yen. I mean, Donnie Yen is a good actor. He's a great action star. And he's just a lot of fun to see on screen. He has this kind of he's able to balance really good action with some drama and also a little bit of comedy. Although this film doesn't have as much comedy as some of his other work, he just is a really good fighter. I mean, if he's in this film, he has gunplay, he has hand to hand, he has some vehicle work and some really interesting vehicle stunts as well. And he's able to just handle it. I mean, a Donnie Yen film is going to have solid action, and that's what this film has. And it's really fun to see him on screen. And this role is a good one for him. He plays this kind of uncorruptible cop. He is, almost too good to be true, but also he gets his hands dirty a little bit to get the case solved. Although he always stays, within the law because he's a good cop. But he gets to go a little bit more extreme in this case because of the stakes. The second thing I loved is I've mentioned it before, the action. This is just a very solid action film. It doesn't have as much action as I think I was expecting, but the action that's there is really good, and especially the kind of hand-to-hand combat is a lot more brutal than I've expected in other martial arts films. I mean, this film, when you've got some hand-to-hand combat, there's weapons involved. There's when the knives are out, they are stabbing things. They're efficient, and there's a lot more death, I think, than in a lot of action films. And this film also has a lot of kind of gunplay, but with a martial arts kind of bent. There's a really good scene at the start where there are guns involved, but it's a lot of hand-to-hand combat where they're fighting and they push them aside and then they shoot, or they have some very fluid, deliberate martial arts kind of movements with a gun. And it just kind of gives this movie a certain style and a certain type of action that is just exciting to see on screen. And it's not just the combat that makes this action exciting. There's a lot of really good vehicle chases, which I wasn't expecting, but they are very well done. There's some really interesting sequences. There's some really good sequences with Donnie Yen as well, where he and with other characters where they kind of jump out of the vehicles to have things happen. That was kind of surprising. And the vehicle sequences themselves are very good. You've got a lot more destruction than I would have expected, and a lot more kind of and longer vehicle chases than I was expecting. Like they kind of they don't drag on. Like they are a good length, but they're more involved than I expected them to be, and they're exciting and fun to watch. So the third thing that I really love are the effects. I mean, so this is a Chinese action film, and I've seen a few recently where the effects are noticeable, and that's one of my pet peeves is when effects are really noticeable. But this film had the right balance. In this film, it didn't only rely on the effects. Like if there was an explosion, it didn't seem to purely be CG. If there was some sort of gunfight, it didn't only exist in CG. It seems like CG was used to kind of accentuate the action, which is, I think, the right way to do it. And it makes it so that, yeah, it's noticeable here and there, but overall, it just kind of helps to elevate the action. I mean, where I noticed it the most is if there's an explosion, the fire was pretty much all CG, but even that was pretty well done. It wasn't as noticeable as in some other films I've seen. It's noticeable, but it doesn't detract from the action, which is kind of the central point of this film. And so in that case, the effects do help to elevate the action as well. It makes it, makes it a little more exciting. You feel more sparks, you've got some bigger explosions, but it's not pure CG. Like, they show some scenes at the end where a car drives through a window and into something. Like you would think that might be CG in some other films. In this film, no, they actually had a car drive through a window and into something. So overall, it doesn't detract from it doesn't distract you. It actually makes it better. And the last thing I love, and fourth thing, sorry, I'm going a little overboard here, is the style. This film has a really good kind of gritty police procedural style. The film is kind of half action, maybe like a third action, and then about two-thirds police procedural. And those, the police scenes, they do get exciting. There's some scenes in the rain. You got a lot of scenes at night that have neon lights and colored lighting, and you have fights that occur in these in this like slum. Not slum is probably the wrong word. I'm not sure what the Chinese equivalent to kind of a warehouse type abandoned warehouse type drug operation would be, but it's in that. And so you've got this really good, intense, dark style that anchors some of the other scenes. Like there are a few lighthearted scenes. It doesn't only take place at night. There's some scenes in the day. There's some scenes at the police station, and these scenes are accompanied by some really good music. I mean, there is some dramatic music that helps to set the stage for this film. And so, I guess I didn't really know what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of it. So things I didn't love. The first, and this hurt the film at the start, but I will preface this by saying by the end, I really enjoyed it. The story is hard to follow at the start. It kind of jumps around a little bit. It tries to give you some background, but that makes it tough to really understand what's going on, because it starts off with this really exciting opening that gets you into the film. It's an exciting action-packed opening, and then some terrible stuff happens there, and then there's a dramatic scene where the cops are they're mourning the loss of their fallen brothers, and they're overwhelmed with emotion. And then maybe I just didn't notice it, but it seems to cut to something in the past that's a little bit more happy. And so it just felt very weird when you have this one scene where everyone is kind of depressed and trying to deal with their demons, and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got this scene where everyone's laughing and joking, and it was a flashback, but it wasn't clear to me there was a flashback. Maybe that's just because Donnie Yen doesn't age. I mean, he looked the same in both scenes, and a lot of the characters I hadn't known them long enough to really know who was who, so that made that story tough to follow. Now by the end, everything was clear. Like the scenes in the past, you knew where they were, you knew who the characters were. And so, by the end, everything was clear. I think on a second viewing, I would probably appreciate them a lot more. I appreciate how fluid that was. But on the first viewing, it was a little tough to follow at the start because it kind of jumped around a lot and didn't really give context to each of the jumps. So the second thing is, despite the really good opening sequence, the action-packed opening sequence, there wasn't as much action as I expected in the film, especially in the opening. I mean, towards there are really good action scenes. Like this film has a lot of really great action. I guess I was kind of expecting more, and there's a lot more police procedural than I thought there would be. It's not bad because the police procedural does help to establish a lot of the characters and some of the gritty aspects of the film, but it does feel like the film kind of picks up steam towards the end, and the end is very good. Like the end is exciting. I was enjoying it the whole time, but the opening wasn't as exciting as I thought, and the middle dragged a little bit. So stick through those, get to the end. The end is really good. And the last thing kind of touches on everything I've talked about. It's a little bit of a long film, although it's not bad, but I think because of the slower start and the slower middle, and the fact that the film was a little over 2 hours, it's 122 minutes, I think. So it's just a little over 2 hours. It felt a little bit longer than I think it could have been. There seemed to be some scenes that could have been cut or tightened up. You could have probably trimmed off 10 or 15 minutes of the film and made it, a tighter overall experience. Again, it's not a bad length. 2 hours is fine for a good action movie, especially one that has this much depth and this, these really good action sequences. But, it did feel a little bit long. So going to the ending, and again, spoilers, you're going to find out what happens in the film. So if you don't want to know anything about that, I've tried to keep it a little bit vague up until now, but now you will have spoilers. So you've been warned. So you've got the essential story is that so you had Donnie Yen's character, whose name was Bong, and Nicholas C's character, whose name I think was Ngo, but I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, so I'm just going to call him Nicholas C. And that's probably out. Nicholas C. They worked together. Donnie Yen's character was kind of a mentor to Nicholas C. And Nicholas's character, he was a rising star in the police. He was doing great work. He was fast tracked to promotion. He looked like everything was, the sky's the limit to him. But when a wealthy bank owner was kidnapped, C's boss told him to kind of pull out all the stops and do whatever it took to get the case solved. They wanted the case solved by the opening of the stock market so that, the financial market wouldn't be in panic. And C did whatever it took to solve the case in that time limit. And he went a little overboard. I mean, it does feel like, I mean, he went extreme to get the answer, and then they kind of did more than they had to. And they ended up killing someone. And so Donnie Yen's character, he testified truthfully. He didn't see much of what happened, but he did see certain things. And so he testified against C, which sent C and the other 4 cops to jail. So when they get out, they're trying to get revenge. And so, towards the end, you have Bong's wife getting kidnapped, and she's held in an opera house. And the person that is holding her is Yen and C's former boss, with this like collar around him, like a saw-like bomb collar. So he's holding them hostage, but you can tell he's kind of under duress. And so when Donnie Yen gets there, his wife is, handcuffed to him, and he has this bomb on him. And so Donnie Yen has to work fast, and he tries to disarm the bomb, and he tells all the cops to stay back and like get out of here quickly, get the hostages out. But he tries to work fast, and he tries to get them to move quickly. And in doing that, he shoots one of, like, the cops have shields, so he shoots one of their shields to kind of get them to move because they're not doing it. And so he tries to disarm the bomb. It doesn't work, and eventually he hears C's character over some microphone. There's a camera on the bomb, and there's a microphone, and he says basically like, it's tied. The bomb is tied to his pulse. If you kill him, then the bomb will stop. And so Donnie Yen's character doesn't do it. He's trying to disarm the bomb, but the people around him get nervous, as they should be, because the bomb is counting down. And so they shoot the former boss, stopping his heart and stopping the bomb. Well, C's not really happy about that. So he sets the bomb to go off anyways. And so Donnie Yen and his wife, they try to escape, but they're caught in the blast. Donnie Yen gets pulled into an internal affairs investigation because he did shoot at a cop to try to get him to move, which wasn't the right thing to do, but I mean, he was stressed. Side note, don't shoot the cops. It's not good. But so Donnie Yen gets pulled into an internal affairs investigation because he did shoot at a cop. And so they investigate what happened. And as they're about to put down their sentence, all of Donnie Yen's people, like his crew, there's I think maybe like 12 or 15 people, cops that he's working with, that they're kind of like his core group. They all come in and they say basically like, we're a team. If he did something wrong, we all did something wrong. It's kind of like that old commercial where I think it was like the soccer team, someone's like, she's at the dentist and the dentist is like, we have to pull your teeth. And then like one of her teammates walks in and is like, then I will also get my tooth pulled. Another teammate walks in and says, I will also get my tooth pulled. It's like that, but a little more dramatic. And so the internal affairs investigators get angry, but this does touch them. So the lead investigator says, I'm not feeling well, so we have to adjourn today. So we will resume tomorrow, but I'm not going to rule yet because I'm not feeling well. You're still a cop for 24 hours, essentially telling Donnie Yen, like, go, you got one more day, solve this case, do what you need to do. So he gets back on the case, starts trying to figure it out. And in the interim, the police office has found this piece of evidence that was planted on one of the earlier fights. It was planted on one of the bosses in one of the earlier fights that showed the schematics for a bank. And so the officers are thinking, okay, well, they've got these schematics. They're clearly going to hit this bank. But Donnie Yen is smart and he knows what's up. He says, no, that must be a decoy. They must have planted that. I'm going to go to the other bank, Mr. Fox Bank, who he was kidnapped earlier. He was, the subject that was kidnapped that then caused Tsi and his team to go to extreme measures. So it makes sense that, Donnie Yen would be thinking about that. Cut to the bank. Tsi and his gang are there. They hit the vault. They force Mr. Falk to open the vaults and give them the money, and then they kill him, because they're kind of ruthless. They're a little pissed that they got sent to jail. And so they steal the money, drive away, and they think they're scot-free. But as they're driving away, Donnie Yen drives up and they see each other. So boom, car chase. And this is a really good car chase. It's a good scene. There's a lot of action in it. There's a lot of really, exciting set pieces as well. It's just a really well done action sequence. So eventually the car that the robbers are driving crashes, and then you have a Heat style shootout. Like I'm telling you, the action in the end sequence is really good. And so you have this Heat style shootout with the 4 remaining robbers at this point, and they kind of go crazy for a little bit. They're surrounded, they're shooting everyone, and eventually they all kind of make a plan, like they're all going to escape at the same time. So they all start going. Now, as you would expect, 4 robbers surrounded by cops. They're not all going to get out. So one of them is shot as he's trying to escape. Another is cornered in a bus. And so when he's there, he takes a family that's on the bus hostage, and he has a grenade. He says, like, let me go or everyone's going to die. And so that cop, the cop that's in there, tries to fight him. It's not Donnie Yen's character, it's someone else, tries to fight him, and the grenade falls. And then there's this really exciting sequence where that cop pushes the robber onto the grenade, jumps on top of it, boom, that robber's gone, and the family's saved. So this leaves C and one other gang member running out. They're in like some tunnel or some hallway, trying to get out. And C's fine, but his compatriot has taken a few shots. He's not doing that well. So he basically says, like, this is in a line for me. I'm tired. You get out of here. And that robber then pulls out 2 grenades and goes kind of kamikaze on the cops that are pursuing them, trying to stop them. He doesn't do much, but he does distract them enough to then let C escape and lead to this epic fight with Donnie Yen. And this fight is also good. I mean, the action in this last sequence is very good, but this fight takes place in a cathedral. it almost like it feels like kind of a John Woo style action sequence because you've got this really stylish location. You've got a cathedral. You've got colored lighting coming in through the stained glass. It's a really, really nicely set up shot. Like it's a nice sequence and it's a good location for a fight. So the combat in this sequence is really, really good. Like I said, a lot of the hand-to-hand combat is brutal, and this is no exception. Plus, you've got the cool style from the cathedral, the colored lighting, and some really good music. So you have a long, drawn out but intense fight sequence that it's exciting, it's enjoyable. I loved how brutal it was. This felt much more impactful than I think a lot of other action movies I've seen felt. It didn't have as much, I guess, I don't know, theatrics, I guess is the wrong word, but it didn't have as much show. It felt a little bit more physical than some of the other action movies I've seen. So they go at it, they're at it for a while, and eventually Donnie Yen gets injured. I mean, I think in this sequence, C has like two butterfly knives and Donnie Yen has a baton. So he's at a disadvantage, but luckily he has an armored vest. But it's fast, it's intense. It is a brutal fight sequence. But eventually, Donnie Yen gets stabbed, but he manages to disarm C and then break one of his arms. So he kind of disables him there. So he eventually wins. C's character, I think his name is Go, it's NGO. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so I'm just not going to. But C's character, eventually Donnie Yen stops him, incapacitates him, and the cops all show up. And so C's character is kind of like sitting there with a broken arm, and he has a million laser sights on him. And Donnie Yen is essentially like, okay, now you're captured, like I'm done. And so as he's walking away, C's character kind of stands up and gives this line. He says basically, I wonder if the targets were reversed and you went after Coke, who was the person that they had to beat up to get the information to then save Mr. Falk. If you went after Coke that day, I wonder if our destinies would have been reversed. And he doesn't really give Donnie Yen a chance to answer that or anything, because he then throws himself onto some like rebar that was sticking out from a statue. So he's like, it's a statue of like the Virgin Mary with some rebar sticking out because it was broken, and then he just impales himself on it. So again, another stylized action shot. So then that's it. Like all the robbers are dead and Donnie Yen succeeds and the movie ends. But then after the movie ends, stick around, because in the credits there's also a memorial to Benny Chen, who's the director of this film. There's a nice sequence that dedicates the film to him, and then there are a bunch of kind of behind the scenes shots of Benny Chen directing the film and directing the action. So it's really good. It's interesting on two parts, right? One, you get to see Benny Chen working in his element, which is fun to see, but then you also get to see some of the action sequences before all the effects. You also get to see some heartfelt moments with the actors and Benny Chen. So stick around for the credits. It's a beautiful end scene and kind of a nice cap for this film. And again, this film is good. It has a rough start, but stick around because the action and the style and the overall just feel the film make up for it. And by the end, I was all in. So that is Raging Fire. It's in theaters on August 13th, 2021. And again, it's a good action police procedural film. So thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot and make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.